Welcome to Miniature Medium. My name is Gabriel, and today I'm going to show you how to convert Zone Mortalis columns into something a little more functional. So you've read the title of this video, and you've seen the thumbnail. You know this is a dice tower. If you enjoy this content, please make sure to like the video, and please watch to the end. It does help the channel a lot. And I have an announcement for you later in the video, so stick around. So I've been thinking about doing this for quite some time, but haven't gotten around to it until now. This will be a 2-column tall structure with new internal structures to aid in its function as a dice tower. It'll still be usable as a piece of terrain. First thing, you will need to choose your column bits and cut open one of them. We won't be using the caps, which double as fittings for stacking the columns. I'll be using sprue to bridge the gap and save the cap for something else. Be careful here, you can use a rotary tool to get through this faster, but I would recommend using a sharp blade. Take your time and cut shallowly to avoid slipping or the blade breaking. After that part is cut out, go ahead and put all 4 parts of the column together. It's also at this point that I would recommend putting the magnets in if you plan to magnetize your Zone Mortalis terrain. Regarding that, I have a tip. To make sure your polarities are always correct, it would be beneficial to make some kind of tool. This is just the eraser end of a pencil with the cup part trimmed and the clip removed. Now I can go ahead and glue the magnet to this, and I can use it as a tool on the outside of all of my pieces. That way I know that my polarity will always match up. Remember how I said we weren't going to use the cap? Well, since we aren't, a new structure will need to be made. For this, I took bits and pieces of sprue to make internal supports, external locking bars, and to fill the gap. If you measure carefully, then you can recreate it exactly so that a 2-column high structure will sit correctly with the modular aspect of the other Zone Mortalis terrain. While I'm putting that together, I would like to talk to you about something that's new to the channel, and that is my Patreon campaign. You can find links in the description of my videos, as well as a link to it on my YouTube channel page. If you enjoy what I do and you would like to support the channel, please go check it out. All patrons will get exclusive access to content, as well as other benefits that I've listed on the Patreon page. Now, with that support, I can improve the videos. Link in the description below. Setting the columns to the side for now, I'll begin on the tray that will accompany the tower. The tray's function is to keep the dice contained to the area instead of knocking over miniatures. There's nothing more annoying than having a miniature in a tactical game knocked out of position. Both you and your opponent have no idea where it was to start with. For the base, I'm choosing to use corkboard, and I'm cutting holes into it so that way the columns will still have access to lock into Zone Mortalis tiles. On top of the top column, this is where the randomization will take place. I'm taking some straws, you could use some leftover sprue or Q-tips, just anything that will survive the force of the dice hitting it. And I'm going to cut them to fit inside the column. I'm going to anchor them inside of the pre-made magnet holes so that way it adds to their strength. I'm only using 2 lengths here, and I'm just crossing them, so it'll look like this. For the tray, you can build it as you want. Obviously, I don't expect you guys to have the exact same materials that I'm using, but I am hopeful that by showing you my process, it'll help spark some ideas. I'm starting with some Tommy tracks that I found at the thrift warehouse over a year ago, and I'm embellishing it with straw and wire. I'm using paper straws, and these are my favorite for this purpose. They've got more substance than plastic straws. Straws. And don't melt with hot glue. If you snip the ends at 45 degrees and reattach them, you can make it look like the pipe is coming out of the wall. In addition to the pipes, I'm also putting on wires. I'm doing the same thing inside of the walls just to make the inside a little different as well. To follow along with that, I'm also changing the texture of the corkboard. I don't mind the corkboard as it is, but I wanted to make it a little different. For this, I'm taking some thin chipboard and I'm cutting it into different panel shapes that I can then glue onto the floor. It'll also help to add some rigidity to the middle because as it stands, the middle of this corkboard is not very strong.
In order to prevent the dice from just shooting out the other end of this tray, I do need to put something in the way. So I'm going to take some of the cutoff pieces from the Tommy track, glue those back down. Those will help to protect the basing materials I'm going to use from the dice, protect the miniatures from the dice. For the basing materials that I'm going to use, I'm just going to take and slather tacky glue onto the base. Sprinkle down some sawdust, and then you see this garbage pile over here? That's just going to go right back onto this. Onto the important part, the internal structure. I've already got that brace from earlier glued in, and now I'm just putting that piece of corkboard I mentioned in to act as the floor. This is what everything else is going to be glued on. I've got a bit of hair curler here that I'm going to use at an angle, sloping it towards the opening to eject the dice out of that opening. Now, you don't need to use a hair curler here. You could just use, again, chipboard, any kind of plastic will do, just so long as it holds up to the type of dice you're using. I wouldn't use thin serial card if I was going to be putting metal dice through this. Make sure that you're getting the angle right on this. It will take a little bit of time and experimentation. I had to go through several different variations of it being glued down before I found one that worked. And even then, I had to go back in and add more of that hair curler just to make sure that the back of it was at a much steeper angle and helped eject the dice out further away from the column. Just make small adjustments as needed until you get it right for you. You're probably noticing one issue with this so far. There are openings on the side here that some of the dice could become trapped in. Very easy to fix, and for this, you just need to create a slope from the inside walls towards the curler, so it will encourage the dice back down into the little slope that you made to eject it out of the column. Again, I'm using paper straws here, as I'm also thinking that they'll look like piping inside of the structure if I were to use this as a standalone piece of terrain, not as the dice tower that I'm making it as. You can use whatever material you want, again, just make sure that it can withstand the type of dice that you will be using. I did go ahead and test this with small dice, and it works perfectly. However, when I moved to the normal sized dice, those tended to get stuck right at the opening. To correct this, I just began shaving the opening to make it a little wider. Now, normal sized dice fit through here. And now that they roll well, the structure is done, I'm gonna now glue the two columns together. I am actually really happy with how this turned out. I can't wait to use it. I didn't really know what to expect when I decided to actually put this together. I didn't even know if the idea would work. Now I've got a sci-fi Zone Mortalis themed dice tower that I can use as a terrain piece in addition to it being a dice tower. At the same time, I'm looking forward to this. No more dice flying off the table and you can't find them. No more having dice roll all across the table. It's just, I'm excited. I can't wait to give this a try. If you enjoy what I do, please like the video and comment. Let me know what you think. Also, go check out my Patreon. Thank you for watching, and as always, have fun, be creative, and happy hobbying.